Today on the Church Media Guys show, we are going to be talking about things that you want to know about. We've gotten a lot of questions, and so we've gathered a few. We're going to get kind of nerdy in the church media space and see if we can solve a couple of problems. I am Dave, the founder of Church Training Academy and the original church media guy. With me is somebody else. His name is Justin, and he's in a bed and breakfast somewhere with crappy internet connection. And then there's Bill, who is bald. So good morning, gentlemen.
What's going on, Dave?
Did y'all like that?
What's going on, Bill? Yeah, that was... we might have some moments when we're doing this. First of all, I've got my laptop on a suitcase right now, and so hopefully, if I start shifting off, it's because my laptop is sliding off.
Is it a soft
suitcase,
side?
But also,
is it a soft side? You'll just start sort of sinking.
Yeah, maybe it might. Yeah, we had a trip this weekend that got extended till today. The wonders of the wife being in between contracts and then Yosoi work at home. But anyways, hopefully this will go okay with my internet and not having any of my streaming equipment. So let me just say real quick before I get cut off, what's up, Luis, Eos Inspires, X-Ray, John, Pete, Josh, Doug, Beverly, Jennifer, Ephraim, FBC Church, PFBC Church, Richard, Dave, I can't say your name, Jonathan, what's up, everyone? So glad y'all are watching. We're here to answer your questions today. If you want to help us out, give this a like. That'll help this message reach to more people. That's one way that you can help spread this information. And I'm really glad to be here. We have some good questions prepared, but also if you have a question, leave it in the chat, and we will get to them.
Absolutely. So before we get into doing this, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is a solution that folks that need to know about, especially if you have a limited internet connection, is our friends over at Restream. If you go to getrestream.com, which, by the way, this show is brought to you by Restream. Restream is a service that basically allows you to send your internet connection or your live stream, your feed coming from your system, send it directly to them, and then you can actually configure their service to syndicate it to a whole bunch of different channels, which means you can stream to one platform and then have it sent to YouTube and to Facebook and to Twitch and to Twitter. What's that one that Twitter bought? Is that thing still around? What's it called? Periscope. Yeah, Periscope, if they're still around. And yep. Other systems that are out there, some that are well known, some that are not well known, or something of your own building. I mean, you've got a lot of flexibility with it. Anyway, if you go to getrestream.com and sign up, you will get $10 credit and can get started. And it is a really cool service that we've been using for a few years, and we love it, and we think you'll love it as well. So getrestream.com. So that takes us to like our first real question, guys, that we see quite often in the Church Media Hacks group. Our church internet is intermittent. Live streams can't keep stable. What do we do? So do you guys have some thoughts?
Yes, but Dave, I need you to go first because I have to correct something. There was a bad link in the email, so I got to resend it out.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
I can go.
Okay, go for it.
So if you have intermittent internet connection, the first thing you need to do is call your ISP.
Yes.
So I'm just pointing out the obvious.
That's the first thing. By the way, if your church does have like a business account, then your internet service provider should be like treating you like royalty. They should be giving you guys top priority. They should have someone out, in hours, not days. So be checking on that. And there's all kinds of technical reasons why it could be bad. It could be that the modem is going bad. It could be that the wiring connecting it is kind of janky. It could be that, you got the modem coming in and you've got a switch that could be giving you problems. You could have a problem from the pole to the building and stuff. So let them check that out. You can diagnose stuff on your end as much as possible, or your tech team can. but then let them know and let them kind of trace it and see if they can get that straightened out so that you can solve that problem long term. Now, in the short term, we got to work around that, okay? Which means when people say that the internet is intermittent, okay, that could mean two things really. It could be intermittent, good strong signal is intermittent, or it could be that the connection is intermittent. We have no internet. We have internet. We have no internet. We have internet. I mean, that's pretty bad. Definitely get them out there for that. But if the problem is just that it's just not strong enough, which means your upload speed is, let's say your upload speed is like a megabit, 1 megabit. You can stream to that. The question is, will it always be 1 megabit, or will it dip down to something like really low, like 900K or 800 or 700 or 500K? So trying to stream and have a consistent stream using that low of an upload connection is going to be hard. So I recommend that you don't live stream, but that you record while you're there, and then that afternoon upload it. Upload it from your house if you need to. And you can use YouTube has a premiere feature. Facebook has a watch party feature and a premiere feature, so you could actually put it out there so that everybody gets notified and they get to see it and they get to go through it and leave comments and stuff as if it were live. But there's also a service called Live Pigeon. Is that right, Justin?
That's right.
Something you've been working with.
I just sent out the correct email, so hopefully we'll get some more people in here. The correct link in the email. Live Pigeon, there's a whole separate video I'll link to as well in the chat. I'm a fan of using Premiere and using pre-recorded service. That's what our church does naturally anyways, my own church, Crosswaves. But you can fight it with the internet, and you can do some investigation and get that live experience working. But in the meantime, I say use Premiere, or you can use something called Live Pigeon, which gives you a few extra features that you don't get from Premiere. When you use Premiere, right, you upload your pre-recorded and it schedules it and premieres it as if it was live. People can watch the broadcast and you tune in live, but it is a pre-recorded thing. The catch is you can only premiere on Facebook into a Facebook page. So you can't do it into a group. You can't do it into your profile. The last thing you want to do is premiere it on YouTube and then try to share it over on Facebook. That is no good. You could do a watch party as well, but there's still something about a page being live or a person being live versus having something premiered. The notification is different, and so automatically people know that it's a canned recording, and they may tune out, or they may know that you're not going to be in the chat. If you do a live, not only will people, it catches their attention for just a little bit, even if you tell them, hey, we're broadcasting live, but you tell them it's a pre-recorded one. Just because it's live, there's a little switch there in the algorithm and in the psychology that you get a little bit more people watching. Also with Live Pigeon, you can schedule into a Facebook group or your profile. You can actually, with Live Pigeon, you can do your live stream to multiple platforms at once. So you schedule once, you upload once, it can go on your page, your group, your profile, YouTube. So you're not uploading across all these platforms and scheduling across all these platforms. You do it once and it goes out. And then a small thing, if there's a change, you can just easily swap out the videos versus Facebook, where you then have to go delete and then re-upload and get all the information back in. I'm a big fan of Live Pigeon. It is an investment, but I think it's a really good investment for a lot of churches that are in this situation where they want to be live, but they can't, and they want a little bit more than Facebook and YouTube Premiere offers, and they may have slow upload. So you can't sit there for 12 hours babying a stream to upload only for it to fail halfway through, and you got to start it all over again, and you got to do that 5 times. I'm a huge fan of Live Pigeon. I was wary of it. I was doubtful of it. Once I actually tried it, we're actually sold on our own. We're using it at Crosswaves too every week, so I'm sold on it.
That's cool. One of the questions that I've seen in relation to that is using a service like Live Pigeon is, aren't you like lying because you're telling people that you're live, but you're not really live?
Yeah, you're not telling people you're live. You're not sitting there, hey guys, thanks for joining us this Sunday morning. I'm so glad to be preaching. Well, someone turned my lights off.
I hear the
So
giggling. That's funny.
yeah, you're not lying to people. You're not saying, yeah, we're totally live right now. I'm talking to you, right? Josiah in the chat said, and that's obviously not there. You're
Right.
not lying to people. You're not decepting people. What you're doing is you're using the algorithmic strengths of live on the platform
Mm-hmm.
that you can reach more people, and then you can also still be in the chat. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from putting a pre-recorded watermark or
Sure.
message in the description that says we're pre-recorded, or in the comments. What you're doing is you're just taking advantage, dare I say, exploiting the algorithm and just natural psychology to tell people, to get people interested and involved in watching. So it's not deceiving. You're not lying to people. That's not the point of the software. The software is not for deception.
Right.
The software is to reach more people, and you're just going to use that live algorithm, and you get a couple of extra amenities with it too. But that's the benefit of it.
Yeah, I agree. And gosh, people, don't be so negative. Gee whiz. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Look on the light side, not that dark side.
Well, one thing to note is that, for instance, big churches like Gateway Church out here in the Metroplex, they have been doing all of worship pre-recorded, but then the pastor will do one live sermon, and then it'll be just promoted across all service times because they have multiple watch times or whatever. So everybody's just doing what works for them. One thing I will say, though, if you are going to do live streaming, even if it's pre-recorded, please make sure you include your music, because a lot of churches are probably maybe finding that difficult. Even if it's just your worship pastor sitting on his couch in his house, it's something that your parishioners will miss more than they realize, but they'll notice it and they'll comment, "Where's the worship?" So make sure that's part of your programming, because it's essential to the worship experience nowadays. So don't just rely on your pastor's message. Find a way to make sure you're including worship in that. I would note that.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Definitely. And that's for that Sunday morning experience that you want people to have a communal part in. After the fact, guys, y'all can trim that, or you can take the recording that you've made, because you're not just live streaming, you're recording locally, because that's the right thing to do, right? You guys do that, right? Yeah, of course you do. So you're going to trim that, and then take the sermon, and then you can upload that to your YouTube channel or to your Facebook content library, and have that for after the fact. That way, and podcast it as well. That way, everybody has access to that meat that they may have missed. That's the thing that you will watch or listen to when you are having lunch at your desk, or when you're commuting or something. Not having to skip through 25 minutes of worship when you've been listening to Spotify, your worship set on Spotify all morning anyway. Now you just want to get to the meat of the thing. So remember, our content can be repurposed and can be consumed in different ways. So put it out there so that people can consume it in the ways that they need to consume it. One of the questions that we've seen, and we've actually been talking about, actually in the Insiders group a little bit too, is that some people just, it takes forever to upload their videos after the fact, whether they're doing a premiere or whether they're just uploading to YouTube, their weekly sermon or what have you. Just it's taking forever to do it, and they want to know how do you work around that. I've got decent internet connection. Again, you got to check that internet connection. I mean, you really do. You need to see what your run speed test. It's a great little tool. You can actually download an app called Speed Test on your phone or on your computer, and I always say do it on your computer, because that's what's connected to your network and that you're actually going to be pushing that video from. Just things to consider. Plug in. Don't be using Wi-Fi, because depending on how your Wi-Fi is set up at your house or at your church office, you may be far away from the node. For example, in our video room at our church, where I shoot our video announcements and we do testimonies, and our pastor does a live stream on Wednesday nights, the internet in there is rubbish. I mean, you're lucky if you get one little bar of Wi-Fi in there. But we ran a line and plugged in a hard line so that, I could either set up a little Wi-Fi router in there if I wanted to, or what I do is plug in directly to my laptop so I can live stream. And then it's, 40 megabits up. It's great. It's wonderful. And if you do have the internet type thing set up, there's a few things that you need to consider. When you're editing, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, when you're editing, say you're doing, what's that one that you use all the time? Justin, Final Cut.
Final Cut. Yeah, Final Cut Pro.
Right.
X.
So when you like in Final Cut, when you go to export, you have a handful of options for exporting that file or sharing that file out. And if you go with like the high quality one, which of course we all want high quality, want it to be the highest quality, to be pristine and deliver the best experience, you're actually putting out like a 30 gigabyte file. It's a large file. It's not really compressed. It's really not ready for prime time. Now, the cool thing is that YouTube will take those files. And so, and I've done this before. I've had like a 40 gigabyte, MOV file that's like uncompressed and it's pristine quality and stuff. And I've uploaded it, started it overnight and let it go and came back and it eventually was up. And it's pristine and all that. But you need to try to export to a MP4 file, or if you do make that master file, that big high quality one, then compress it after the fact. Like use something like handbrake, which will turn around and let you put in like some presets. You can choose a preset for high quality MP4, and then it will compress it, and that 30 gig file could go down to being like 3 gigs or 2 gigs or whatever. That's definitely one thing to do, and you're going to want to look at the quality. There's some settings in there, and you're looking for things like bit rate. I tell people when you're making a file for upload to YouTube or to Facebook that you need to have like a minimum of like 15 megabits of bit rate, 15 megabits per second of bit rate. And what that is how much data is in every single frame. If you look at like a really small JPEG and you blow it up and it gets kind of junky looking, versus a really high quality one that you just took on your phone or on your camera and then blow it up, it's a larger file and there's more data in there. It's much more dense, visual data in there, so you can blow it up and not lose quality. It's the same thing with video. The higher the bit rate of your video, if you have a 1 megabit video and try to play it on a HD screen or a 4K screen or something, you'll see some artifacting and stuff. If you have like a 20 megabit file, then you'll see very little of that. It'll just be really pristine looking. So I tell people to start at 15 and look at the file size and then work backwards from there. You could go down to 10, you could go down to 6, but you really need to try to keep those quality settings as much as possible. And I have something sneaky to tell y'all, but y'all put in some thoughts here before I tell the sneaky one.
Yeah, I want to share my workflow. I like to put out that master file for archiving because I want to have as good of a file to archive that I can work with if I ever need to revisit it. Mm-hmm. And then all I do, my workflow is once I have that master file, I archive it where I want, and then I run that file through handbrake. So I'll have maybe I don't know exactly how long. I would say like a 6-minute video is going to come out about 4 gigs. That's too much to be putting on a USB stick or sending over to the presentation computer. It's also too much to be putting out to YouTube and all that. Right. So I just take that same file and I run it through handbrake. That 6-minute, 10-minute video goes down to anywhere between 200 and 400 megabytes. Mm-hmm. And you really don't lose a lot. Now, you have to kind of like stop thinking like a media guy and start thinking like a consumer. Mm-hmm. We love our 4K TVs. I love Blu-rays. I try to buy every Marvel movie on Blu-ray because I really enjoy watching with that detail and that crispness and the fantastic sound. You just can't beat Blu-ray sound, in my opinion. But when I go watch those Marvel movies in the theaters, I'm not watching it in 4K. You can even go to the dollar theater. You're not watching it in surround sound with decent whatevers, but it's still a good experience because, it's about where you're watching it. we are broadcasting the church media guys here right now. We're broadcasting in 720. And every show we get someone that says, Dave, how do you look so good? Well, first of all, Dave's got a really good camera. Sorry, Dave, how does your picture look so good?
Sorry.
I don't know what's in Dave's DMs after he does these shows. But it's not, we get comments all the time that, we have really good picture, and what do we do and how do we do it? Guys, we're broadcasting in 720, and some people are like, well, no, I'm going to put it up there at 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second, 1080, and it needs to be good. Your projector's not putting that out. Your computer might not even run that. And it's a waste because people are only going to downstream 480 or 720 depending on where they're watching it. So, you don't have to upload the best possible picture on YouTube because people just aren't going to consume it that way. So take a step back, be a little less selfish and get off your high horse. He said lovingly, and just put it up in 720, run it through handbrake. You're gonna maybe dip from 100 to 60% quality, like if you were to move your JPEG export down in Photoshop, but the average person is not going to notice, and it's still going to be okay. So,
and most people are watching on their phones anyway.
What's the phrase? Don't cut off your nose,
despite your face.
Don't kill yourself with 8-hour, 12-hour uploads to upload data that no one's ever going to see.
Right.
So, take a step back.
Now,
we got some.
Hang on, real quick.
Coming out on the YouTube, but Dave,
hang on, real quick.
Share something.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a caveat in there. The caveat is if you have a sparse internet connection, and it does take you forever to upload, a 2 gig file or a 3 gig file or something like that. That is when you start making sacrifices like this. Okay, if like I've got 25 megabits up, so I send pristine stuff, and I'll have like 5 or 6 videos that client things or whatever, YouTube videos that we do here, and just whatever, all these sort of things that I've done throughout the course of the day, and I put them in and I get them uploading like overnight. So I just go to bed and they start uploading. And when I get up the next morning, they're all there ready for me to put in the titles and all that other information. So there, you use that overnight time, when the system's not being used. But when you do have to sacrifice, do like Justin said, drop it down to 720. You've got a smaller dimension, but you can keep you can have a smaller file size and pack in just a little bit more bit rate and still come up with a smaller file size that looks good. One thing that a lot of people don't know about, when we're doing MP4 files on our computers, we're using a codec, which is a compression routine called H.264. It's the standard for MP4 files, and it's really good. It's really efficient. And if you've exported a file and made an MP4 out of it, you're aware of the process and the length of time and all this, however long it takes to do a 2-minute file or a 30-minute file or a 45-minute file. There is an upgrade to that called H.265, and it is basically what our Blu-rays have. So our Blu-rays use a different compression structure. Instead of H.264, they use H.265. What's really cool about it is it's really efficient. So when you take a file, this is getting kind of nerdy, but when you take a file, and let's say it's a 30-minute file, and you export it to an MP4 file, and let's say you've made it 15 megabits, okay, and you're going to end up with a 4 gig MP4 file, okay? If you use the H.265 codec, you can get the exact same quality and put out the exact same numbers, okay? But the file size is basically going to be like in half. So instead of a 4 gigabyte file, you're going to have a 2 gigabyte file. But you're going to have the same quality levels. Now check this out. You can actually lower the quality setting, say from 15 megabits down to, say, 9 megabits, and retain the same quality. That's how efficient it is. It's really cool. Now, the caveat with it is that it takes a lot of horsepower. So it uses your CPU a whole lot more. It uses your GPU if you have a system that can access GPU rendering and stuff like that. It uses that a whole lot more. So if it takes you an hour to export an MP4 file using H.264 as your codec, it may take you 2.5 hours to do it with H.265, according to the machine you have. An old laptop is going to take a lot longer, but the payoff may be more. It may be better quality, smaller file size, which means you can upload it faster. Okay, so just take a look at that. It's H.265 or HEVNC, HEVNC, something like that. But H.265, you can get it from the Divx thing. You can do a search for it. Handbrake, if you have it installed on your system, the H.265 may be an option for you, and you may have it and don't even know it. So try it, play with it. It may serve you really well.
Quick question, Dave.
Yes.
Is that going to impact on playability across
No.
devices? If any device will read a normal MP4, doesn't matter if you
your
did it in
iPhone,
H.264.
your iPhone is recording in H.265.
Okay.
Yeah, and so no,
So it's not like when Word changed from doc to docx and the old versions couldn't read docx. It's not like that at all.
No. It's a ubiquitous standard that's out there. Some computers you may need to go and like install the DivX player. It'll put it in there. You can go to just do a search for H.265 codec, and you'll find links to do that. Chris, if you're in the chat, if you want to go grab a link for that and toss it in there, that'd be great. Basically, and once it gets to YouTube, YouTube is going to recompress these things into different versions, and they use H.264, I think, but they make MP4 files. So when you upload your file to YouTube, it's going to make a super duper high quality one. It's going to make let's say you upload a 4K file. There'll be a 4K version. There'll be a 1080 version, a 720 version, a 480 version, and a 144 or a 360p. So there's like 5 different files that it is made from the source that you've given it. So, and you can watch YouTube anywhere. So you're good.
Awesome.
You said we had some questions coming in
the same whatever.
Do what?
Well, I mean, we have one question in the comments I think's related to this a little bit, just because we just mentioned iPhone and what we're recording. The question is from Maryland, from Anthony Simmons. Having trouble connecting iPhone as a source in OBS. I've experienced this one as well. Mm-hmm. I'm still digging for a solution myself. Dave, what do you got? They've downloaded the NDI app.
Okay. OBS has a OBS camera app that you can download. I would try that first.
Boom.
The other thing is that if you're using the NDI camera, you can get it. NewTek has one. So if you're using something like that, then you need to see what's going on with your Wi-Fi, because obviously your iPhone is coming in over Wi-Fi. If you have it actually plugged in to the system, just make sure that you're not plugged into a USB 1 or a USB 2. If you got a USB 3 port, plug it in there as well, so that the data, it won't use Wi-Fi. It'll actually be coming in via USB. So try that as well.
Yeah, I've experienced the issue where.
I'm sorry, what, Justin?
I think you could search camera for OBS, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, NDI camera for OBS. And it is only for iOS. They do not have a Android one yet, to my knowledge, and I was looking a couple days ago.
Yeah, I've experienced it where I can find it for different sources, but sometimes OBS can be difficult. And where I find issues is when you're trying to make it compatible with Zoom or RingCentral, which is Zoom's enterprise product.
Right.
So, but there are some workarounds out there. You're just going to kind of dig a little bit because everyone's issue isn't the same typically. And
just to make sure that everybody knows, if you're using OBS and you want to use NDI, you need to get the NDI plugin from OBS, from their website. It is a plugin that adds the NDI features to OBS so that you can add an NDI source. So sometimes people overlook that. And I'm serious about plugging it into like a USB 2 or USB 3 because over the last couple of days, I've actually had 2 or 3 different people say, I can't get my my Blackmagic Intensity Shuttle to read. It sees it, but I can't get a video picture. And I had somebody say that they plugged in their cam link, and it kept dropping. The signal kept dropping. It just was a horrible problem. And so we're trying all these different things. And then it occurred to me, hang on a sec, is this plugged into a USB 3 port? And they're like, I don't know. And they go and look, and oh, sure enough, it's in a different USB port. Here's the ones that I think it's actually labeled like SS or something like that, super speed or whatever. On my computer, they're the red ports. The blue ones are USB 2, and then the regular black ones or white ones, whatever, are the original USB ones. So just be sure that you're going in the right spot. And if you're going through a hub or a something like that, take that out of the loop.
Ones are USB 3.
I'm sorry?
The blue ones are USB 3.
The blue ones are USB 2.
Black ones are USB, whatever the old version USB 2 was.
Rock and roll.
All right, so we're gonna do kind of a, I don't want to call it the lightning round, but we do. Dave, give me some quick hits here for some of these questions in the comments. First, DCK. That might be Adele. How do you get the hum out of a soundboard when going live? Apparently, she's got some hum coming out of her soundboard.
Okay, so when you take your headphones and you plug it directly into the headphone jack of your soundboard, do you hear that hum? If you do, then you need to start muting channels on your soundboard. We're going to say the soundboard that is part of the room, that the one that you guys are mixing for the audience, right? Start muting channels until that hum goes away. Okay. When you say mute the bass, and all of a sudden the hum goes away, then you know that the bass line is what's causing that issue. And it could be just as simple as taking the cord and moving it away from the power supply back there where the bass guy is, because they've got his pedal board and he's got several different things that are plugged in, and we've got got a extension cord that's running across, and his cable is right next to it, and it's picking up the hum. It's 60 hertz. It's the power hum coming from a extension cord or a power supply, okay? Or they've got these things called direct boxes, and a direct box is going to cycle that out as well. You basically plug into it, and then plug out of it, and all of a sudden the hum goes away, okay?
On the direct box, there's a thing called the ground lift.
Yes.
Typically, a good direct box should have a ground lift on it. That's also where you can get rid of your hum.
Yes, exactly.
So make sure you check that ground lift switch.
Right. Now, if you plug into your main mixer, plug in your headphones, and you don't hear the hum, everything's just nice and clean in there. Oh, and everything's unmuted, so you can. If it's muted, then obviously you're not going to hear it. But everything's unmuted, and you don't hear the hum, and then you plug into your laptop, and you're listening, and you hear the hum. Then it could be the cord, it could be the cable, depending on how you have it set up. If you've got the Y cable with the red and white, going to a 3/4, or 3.5 millimeter jack, and plugging into the headphone / microphone thing on your computer, then it could be that cord. Take that cord out, put another one in. Also, look at that cord and see if it's running next to a extension cord or a power supply. Is it going over your battery backup? Is it going over, is it draped across, the power block in the on the other side of the booth or something? I mean, things like that. Same kind of rules apply there. Okay. Another thing to think about is it could be that jack. Maybe you should get a USB audio adapter, and you can get those. You can get one for like $30. That's just a little box, and it has a USB plug, and it goes in, and then you've got ins and outs on it, and that is basically a sound card. That's what it is. Think about it like a Sound Blaster card that you used to put into your computer, and now you can have sound. So, but it's outboard, and they're usually a lot cleaner. The inputs and stuff are a lot cleaner than that little line jack / headphone jack that is on the side of your computer. So take a look at something like that as well.
Yeah, Dave, when you said just like a Sound Blaster card, it just reminded me
how old I
long
am.
I've been in the Mac environment, because I have not heard that in years.
Yeah,
I haven't thought about a sound blaster issue because I know that was something that I used to work with all the time. I would plan to probably, if this is really a big problem, there's about a coin flip chance, 50-50 chance you could fix it without spending any money, but I would go ahead and try to set us 30 or $50 because if you move the cable and it is because it's too close to power or it's getting interference from other cabling, I would buy a shielded cable so you don't have to worry about that. You can kind of loop it up on something, but then it's just going to fall and you're not going to catch it till the live stream starts. Go ahead and fix it that way. To test the direct box, your worship pastor, worship ministry, music ministry should have direct boxes on stage. Just go up to the church during the week and just grab one off. If you need the worship pastor's permission to get that, take one of their direct boxes, plug it into your system, see if that helps. And more and more, I am becoming a fan, Dave. You've really turned me on to the USB converters or mixers.
Oh, yeah.
They seem to just fix all problems. 1/8-inch jacks, you got to work with adapters. You got to sit it in right. You have issues sometimes if you're converting from mono and it's trying to get it into stereo because your laptop or computer is trying to be intuitive. If you just convert it into USB and plug it in that way, man, that fixes like 90% of issues. I'm a really big fan of that.
Yep. He's telling them to, hey, Uncle Justin is working. Please go away. This is funny. Live TV, folks.
What are you going to do?
That's awesome.
I can't.
Wabam.
Let's see. I want to keep going on these questions.
Please.
Dennis said they've been using Restream for about 3 weeks now, and they have no question. They love it. They're looking forward to moving to that, I guess, from Vimeo to save some money. They're loving Restream. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Glad to hear, Dennis. Tommy, our good old friend Tommy has a good question, Dave.
Okay.
And maybe Bill has some insight too. He said, what do you do when you go live but you look dead?
I don't know, Bill.
Well, it's years of realizing, crap, we're on camera. I should smile now.
Yep. Hey, and don't worry, Tommy, because the three of us routinely will, in our back channel chat, we will say, hey, look at the camera. Be sure you smile. Even if you're typing, smile.
I had a nickel for every time Dave told me, look at the camera.
Yes. Because
there's a term out there that we won't mention right now that people talk about when people don't focus on smiling, what their faces look like. But
yes. Resting ugly face, we're going to call it. Resting mean face.
Yes, I think that's what it's called, resting ugly face.
Yeah.
So
otherwise, we look like we want to kill people.
That's right.
Yeah. Everyone, we have some amazing praise to happen today. We are so happy that we live a new life. Don't we just want to tell everyone about it? Shout it from the mountains.
Yes.
The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Sing hallelujah.
Ronderick asked, have you heard of the church online platform, or what do you think about it?
I have heard of the church online platform. I've looked at it. Seems like a good platform. Let me make a statement about services and things like that are like church online or other services that offer really high quality stuff. I don't like their pricing models. And the reason I don't like their pricing models is because they revolve around how long they're going to be keeping, how much they're charging you for storage. Okay, so the different platforms will take your take your live stream in and then charge you or give you an allotment of space to hold those files in your archive, and that is where they make a lot of their money. And there's nothing wrong with that business model, nothing wrong with it at all. So don't get me wrong. From a consumer side, I look at it and say, I don't want to have to, what am I going to do? I'm either going to keep paying and increase, and and every extra gigabyte is an extra $3 or something like that, or I have to bump up to the next size plan. That sort of thing. Just as a consumer, I don't like that. We had that. We used Boxcast at our church. I love Boxcast. Foxcast is a great service. It's great hardware. I know the guys over there, worked with them for years. It's a fantastic service, but they give you an allotment of storage. Now that allotment may be, 3 months worth, as it weighs out, or 6 months worth. And if you want to keep your archive there, then that's good as well. I always work around those. I say, I don't care about your storage. I need it up there for the time that I'm doing it, because I'm recording it here and I archive my stuff. I send it up to YouTube, and that is where we let people view. We don't embed their players so that people can do it. I use YouTube because YouTube is a free service. Yay. But it's also like the second largest search engine on the planet, and I would much rather have my content be searchable and accessible to my friends in Nigeria and the people in the Congo and the people that are using people that are in countries where the gospel is kept at bay and they're not allowed to do it, and they use VPNs and stuff to sneak around. I'd rather it be easily accessible to them than to be on someone else's service and locked behind their doors. Bill, we saw this early on with church website services, where they, if you wanted to go up to 6 pages, then you had to go up to the next pricing structure and all that sort of stuff. And so they're great services. I just work around them if it's what we're going to use, because I'm not going to use them for storage anyway.
Yeah, let me clarify here too, because let me just clarify this. So the Church Online platform is really almost like a dressing to your live stream. So you don't actually Church Online platform.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I was thinking sermons.net or something like that.
You were thinking of sermon.net.
Yeah, sorry. Church Online platform. No. You're right. No. Church Online. That's the one from Life Church folks. Yes. Sorry. Excuse me. No, I do like that platform. I think it's really cool. Like you said, it is it's a wrapper basically for it. You can feed it your YouTube feed. And their player and their chat and stuff like that yes. I'm sorry, I was confused. Please forgive me. But my statement with other services holds true. It does not apply to Church Online. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah. So
you can't tell there's a lot of that stuff out there.
There is a lot, and they're growing, and they're all reaching out to us every week. They all start to blend together. Church Online, you stream to Vimeo, YouTube, whatever your RTMP is, and they basically put it in a nice window. They give you a chat box. They give you some analytics. There's a few things, other things that you can do, but it's a nice to have. My main issue right now is it pulls away from your website. So you either have to do a 301 redirect, or you put a button on your page that opens another tab that we have to watch. If there would, and maybe I don't know about it, but if they would have an embed code that you could put on your website that looked good across all places, so not an iframe, I would say why aren't we all using this? This is great. That's the only thing that holds me back from truly recommending it in most cases. But for what it is, it gives you a lot of good stuff, and it gives you some tools that you can monitor that maybe you want in addition to what you already have now. It's another. My only holdback is it's another step that draws away from your environment and into their environment where you have less control. You have some features, but you have less control. So I would rather use the Restream website widget to get it on your website, use Vimeo chat, YouTube chat that you can moderate easier, and then save and archive and put back with the replay, keep it all in one place. That's my thing. But, I would never say don't try it. Always be trying and do what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Kumar.
So, I have nothing against it.
Dr. Kumar has a quick question. He wants to know how to reduce CPU usage during a live stream. So there's a couple of things. Use a better computer. Use a computer that has a GPU, because that GPU, depending on the broadcast software you're using, if you're using OBS or if you're using vMix, you can tell it to use hardware encoding, and so what that'll do is use the GPU and not the CPU so much. That is very helpful. For example, I'm using vMix on actually on an old Mac Pro, and I've got a Radeon card in here, and so my CPU is at 13, 17, 15%, and my GPU is at like 20%. So my GPU's working and handling a lot of the encoding, and the CPU is handling the moving around of the graphic bits and stuff like that, while the GPU is handling the encoding. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it, if you're using OBS, is when you go into the advanced settings for your CPU or for your streaming and recording. Go into the advanced settings. You can tell it to make your recording be the same as your same settings as your stream, which means that your recording is basically going to be writing the file to a video file that is being streamed. So the stream is being encoded and sent out the door, but it's also now writing it to the hard drive. If you have, say, your stream set at a certain bit rate and quality setting, and then you go down to the section for recording and you tell it to do high quality file or indistinguishable file or something, now you have two encoding sessions going. You got a H.264 encoding session to be pushed up the line to the stream, and the other one is being done to write a different file with different settings. So you can adjust there, make sure those two match. You'll get a lower quality recording, but you'll use less CPU. And if you have a GPU built into that computer, you can always turn that on, hardware encoding, and that will reduce it as well. There's also some CPU settings for the encoding, fast, super fast, very fast, ultra fast, ridiculously fast, or whatever. Playing with those will shove data shove data through quicker, and it'll do less to it. The quality kind of goes down a little bit, but the CPU usage goes down as well. Let's see. Bill, drop one of those in. Let me know what it is.
Luis is asking, soon we'll be going back to church and we're going to have Canon Vixia HF R800 to do the live. Any recommendations on how to use those cameras?
I love those cameras. In fact, one of these days, sometime maybe before 2021, Justin will get his out of the box and hook it up.
Hey, it's out of the box, Dave. I didn't realize I was going to be here today, or otherwise I've been using it today.
Okay. It is a fantastic camera. I cannot recommend it enough. It is the sweet spot for value and bang for your buck. In fact, last night in our mastermind, our private group coaching that we do for members, by the way, you can go to churchtrainingacademy.com/join and join that group and get some serious one-on-one time in a group setting where one of the three of us or all of us will, help you work through these things in some great detail. The cameras are great, and we were talking with somebody that had a tight budget, but wanted to do a lot with it. And I said, hey, these cameras are $250 a piece. So if you've got a $1,000 budget for a camera, you can get 4 of these and actually have 4 cameras in your live stream. So the visual quality of your live stream and the visual interest of your live stream goes way up because you've got 4 different shots you can have versus just the one shot. So they're fantastic. Love those cameras. Things to consider, do manual settings. So you want to manually white balance. And the best way to white balance is to once the lights are on and it's the lights are how it's going to be for the majority of the service, then have someone go stand up on the stage where the pastor and the worship leader stand, and you can just get a white piece of poster board or foam core or something like that. Have them stand there, and then you zoom up as tight as you can on that. Put that in the middle of the screen. If you can get it to take up the entire screen, that's great. And then you can manually set the white balance, which basically is telling the camera, this thing that is on the screen is actually white. So base every other color based on what this is, which is white. So you want to use a white card, and then you define white in the system. You balance to white, and then your colors look true. Okay. If you're using a blue card and you say this is white, and you white balance on a blue card, then all of a sudden your stuff's all going to be all super orangey or something like that. you can play with different colors and see just how it jacks stuff up or creatively colors things. So white balance, and I would also say that your exposure needs to be set to manual as well. So if you have auto exposure turned on, when the lights dim, then the irises open up and it gets bright, and and it looks grainy and stuff. And then when the lights come back on, then it tightens back down, and you end up across those cameras, you end up sometimes with some inconsistent lighting quality or some inconsistent pictures. If you are cutting to the camera in the middle, cutting to the camera in the side, they're in different positions, lights hitting it differently. So I say manually expose, set it, have it set to auto, everything looks good, and then you can click that little thing and just back it back down 2 or 3 steps, and all of a sudden the picture quality gets a lot better and there's less things that are blown out on it. So those 2 things.
Ephraim, or Ephraim, I don't know how you want me to pronounce it, but he had a question that we could do a whole course on. So Dave, I'm going to challenge you.
Okay.
3 minutes and 33 seconds. Can you do it? ProPresenter. How can you use ProPresenter in a live environment while also broadcasting to Facebook Live and YouTube Live? So I'm guessing the question is, how do you get ProPresenter when you have slides going on live, also going to the streaming computer?
Yes. It's actually very easy. If you're using ProPresenter 7, you're way ahead of the game. If you're using ProPresenter 6, you can still do it. You need to go to ndi.tv and download the NDI tools. This is well, everybody should have this anyway. It's just a tool that you need to have, or a series of tools that you need to have that allow you to use NDI in your on various computers. Okay. For example, ProPresenter 6 until we upgraded to 7. What I did was I installed the NDI tools. There's one in there called a NDI scan converter, and I'm actually going to launch NDI scan converter on this computer here, and it's going to show up. There it is. It's showing up in vMix. So now you are looking at the YouTube screen, the left screen of my computer right here. Okay, the computer is only connected via the network. Hardwire. Both of these are plugged into the same switch. Now, what that allows you to do when you're using ProPresenter, the typical setup is you've got an output that is going to an HDMI splitter, and maybe that's being sent to a couple of projectors which are projecting on your screen. The other one may be going out to the camera, or not the camera, the stage display. Okay, so when you run the NDI scan converter, which takes what's on your screen and makes it into a video signal that your other computer can read as a video input, you can then choose, like in ProPresenter, to send the left camera, or the screens, the projector image, or the stage display image, whatever. You can choose that. So now that becomes an input that you would add in OBS or vMix or what have you. You saw me. I've got an input on here that's called NDI, NDI Mac left, which is my left screen on this Mac, and then I've got one for my right screen over here as well. So that's how I did it. Now in ProPresenter 7, you can set up outputs, and you can take various screens, or take things in your presentation and assign them to an output, and in that output you can make an NDI output, which then shows up. So at our church now, I have 2 outputs that are being sent. Our stage display, we've actually assigned it an NDI output, and then our primary display, the big screens, we've set that as an NDI output. So in my TriCaster, I go in and I add an NDI source, and it is 5K iMac, big screen 1 or whatever it's called, and there it is. It comes in, and then add another one, 5K iMac, little screen 1 or something, and then boom, there's the stage display. And then I now have these things that I can use accordingly. You can also, in ProPresenter 7, you can actually create a template that is, say, lower thirds, and you can get it all formatted for 2 rows of lyrics in a lower third type thing, and then you can send that output as well, so that you are sending that lower third over. So it's some cool stuff that you need to play with. And yes, we are gonna. I'm gonna do like some tutorials and stuff on these various setups on all that sort of stuff. So yes.
Yeah, ProPresenter 7. I really like what they're doing. They're really innovating, and they don't have to.
Right.
And a lot of times, innovation comes from the underdogs, which is why I love supporting underdog softwares and businesses. But ProPresenter, they're at the top of the chain, and they're still setting the standard. The stuff that they're doing with ProPresenter 7, with making things easier for those live streaming, but also implementing a way to live stream. Yeah, there are some hurdles to overcome, and they're doing a lot of minimal viable products, but they're setting the standard, and I'm really happy with what they're putting out. Even though it's not perfect, you're going to have some issues. There may be some things to figure out. There may be some bugs, but I love seeing them continue to innovate, even though they're at the top of the chain. It's really good stuff. Tanya said, she said a couple things. I think I can sum it up. She says she's had trouble setting up Facebook live streaming. She's got a video capture device. She got a laptop and an external video camera, but the camera is not showing up as an input. Facebook Live wants to do the webcam, and OBS does not, and her browser, I'm assuming, does not recognize the external camera.
Okay.
Is there something that could be missing?
Okay, so hang on a sec. All right, so if she starts she goes to create a live stream in what do you call it? In Facebook, right? And you have the option to do webcam or like external or third party or whatever it says. I can't remember what the exact term is. Webcam does work, but when she does the other, it doesn't show a source. Is that correct?
Yeah, she said Facebook Live does not recognize my external video camera.
Okay. So, we go back to something that I said, I've seen the last few days. What capture device is she using, and is it plugged into a USB 3 port? That it could be as simple as that. Chances are pretty slim nowadays that the capture cards are for Windows only and not PC, or excuse me, not Mac. So, with the exception of like the actual cards that you would put in the system, like Elgato, they've got like the Game Capture HD 60 or whatever. That is a PCI card. It's for Windows only. It's designed for Windows. It's not designed for Mac, so you can't put it in your Mac and have it seen. I know because I did, and it didn't. It was in the fine print too. But these USB ones are pretty much across the board, unless it's some off-brand and they specifically say it's not going to work with Mac. So try those things. And I would be curious. If we just take Facebook Live out of the scenario, can you add that into OBS, and does it see? If it's not in OBS as the inputs, when you're setting the inputs, you've got a few settings. You've got the dimensions. There's some presets. You may want to uncheck preset and specifically say 1920 by 1080, and specifically say for the frames, do 30 frames a second or something like that. Play with that. And just see. It's just some basic troubleshooting there. If you can get it into OBS, Facebook Live will see it.
Yeah, another question Bill brought up that I think is really good, that I've heard a few times as well. What would you say, this is, I don't see who it's from, but what would you say is the best way to stream if your pastor is in a different location? They're doing Zoom call and then adding it into OBS as a display source, okay. But is there a better way to do it?
Do it with Skype. Do it with Hangouts.
Yeah,
do it with me. I mean, just whatever service you're going to use.
That's how we tell our insiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just you could do that. Personally, I like to do those. Do that type of a setup. I like to do that on different machines. So I like to have the Zoom or Skype or whatever happening on one machine, so that system is basically just focused on making sure that call comes through nice and clean, and is the CPU's not getting hammered by also trying to live stream and trying to mix and trying to do all this other stuff. So and I use NDI. Again, not over Wi-Fi. We plug things in so that our connections are real time and no lag or anything. And you can bring that person, Justin and Bill, right here to my left and or my right over here. Both of them are coming in from a Skype group call, and I have turned on the NDI tools inside Skype, which are available, and it is sending a full screen of Bill, which is right there, and it is sending me a full screen of Justin right there, and it also will send a let me get back over to y'all's to the three shot. Where is it? There it is. Boom. The 3 shot. It will also send a whoever's talking version. So if we want to have like all 3 of us on the screen, I don't want to do any switching, then it will just basically pop, whoever's talking shows up. So that's pretty cool. And we're having really good luck with Skype for doing this. So, and I do the TV show. We bring in guests all the time. I've got my, Surface tablet, and I'm bringing them in on Zoom and using NDI to send and receive back and forth, and that's working just fine. I just wouldn't recommend doing it on the same computer. So there. Hopefully you guys.
I like it.
Hopefully you guys have gotten a little something out of there. If you want to go a little bit deeper, then by all means go to churchmediahacks.com, and you can join our private Facebook group where we talk about all sorts of stuff like this. We're closing in on the 10,000 member mark, which is really cool. And if you want to go super deep with a smaller group and a lot more intense focus, then go to churchtrainingacademy.com/join, and you can become a insider, like several of the folks here in the chat on this video. Take everything that you've learned, take all the stuff we've talked about, take the ideas that are budding around inside your head, take all that stuff and use it to go change lives. We'll see you guys next week.